Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a long time between drinks. As you may be able to see, I don't have decibel killers in the bike today, so you'll be able to hear the raw power. Now all these cars had to come. Awesome. The Royal National Park today. Probably the only place that I can get to within a reasonable time frame in Sydney. So yeah, it's been a very, very long time. So you'd think there'd be a lot of things to talk about, but you know, there probably is. I haven't really developed a plan for what I'm going to talk about today, but one thing I do want to touch on is where we're up to with tuning this bike. So there will be, I'll drop a clip in the video later on down the track of some essentially not power runs, but trying to get the air fuel ratios right, because there's a bit of an issue with these bikes when you don't have access to turn off certain parameters, because Ducati and Euro 5 have locked everything on the ECU. When you put a power commander in or similar type of device, the bike tries to fight back. It tries to take control of the sensors that are essentially trying to be overridden by any plug-in device. So you do get this, and you'll probably notice it when I'm idle. There's a bit of a fluctuation in the RPM as it's trying to constantly adjust and then readjust, which is not an issue. Doesn't pose an issue when riding, because there's one of those BYD trucks. Yeah, so it only happens in the low RPM range, and when you start gassing it, the power commander takes over. So yes, there is a power commander in this bike, fully hooked up, fully tuned with a good power tune, but we haven't actually done a power run on the dyno to get, you know, how much gain that we've had, especially with the Vandemon exhaust on the side. But we are getting there. There's been a lot of screwing around. My mechanic has been on the ball with talking to power commander, with DynoJet I mean, and finding out what our options are. Apparently I should be ready to go back to the dyno tune and do a power run. But yeah, as we know, nothing's set in stone, because there's been times where we've thought that in the past, and then I've gone there and then it hasn't done the things that the OEM has said that it can do. But we're getting there. Hopefully my next visit to my mechanic will be the last one in trying to essentially get into this ECU and do what we have to do to get that power run down, and then I can finally fulfill my promise to Vandemon after what, I bought this bike in 21, it's now 25, and I still haven't managed to get them the data that I said I would get. And that's not, like, I can only do so much. I'm just trying to put the pressure on my mechanic to make sure that he's putting the pressure on the people that he needs to put pressure on to get this across the line. But we're getting there. So that being said, I'll cue the video in here somewhere as to what we've done with the air fuel ratio. So you'll see my bike on the dyno with my mechanic who's trying to get the air fuel ratios right and trying to figure out why air fuel ratio keeps getting knocked about, which we found out was from that lambda sensor that's in the exhaust that we now need to turn off. in order for the power commander to take full control. So cue that video, boom. And welcome back. Power of editing, right? So there's been, as anyone that has followed my channel from the beginning to now would know how many videos I used to put out in the beginning, but I've not been able to keep that up whilst now living in the city. Pretty much the only real reason I have for that is that I haven't been riding that much because I've been focusing mainly on my family and work. I'm finally in a position with work where my career is really taken off, and I'm in a constant, essentially, battle to prove myself over and over and over again in order to continue keeping on the forward step, continue getting my income and promotions and all the rest of it. So I've been working for this particular company now for not even 3 years. It's going on to 3 years, but anyway, there's been a bit of stuffing around with my employment in that time, but that got finally sorted after almost a year. And so I've had probably 2 pay rises and a promotion within that time. So I've been putting a hell of a lot of effort into, just drilling that out. And then when it comes to the weekend, I'm so mentally fried that I can't even string a sentence together. So, and I just haven't been riding. Like, the bike's just been sitting in the garage doing sweet FA. Now, I've had this bike since it came out. So when it was 2021, I put in an order back in COVID time to get this bike ordered from Italy because there was none in Australia. So I had this direct order from Italy, and I've had it since it was released. It's now got 9,778 kilometres on the clock in 3 years' time. Those of you that have followed me from the beginning know that I was punching out videos left, right and centre over some pretty controversial topics, mind you, but it is what it is. Some people liked it, some people didn't, understandably so. But I owned that bike for probably I don't even remember how long I owned that bike, but living in the country and riding pretty much daily, that bike, when I sold it, had 57,000 kilometres on it, or something, or thereabouts. So I put a hell of a lot of kilometres on that bike. I didn't pussyfoot around. Like, there's so much that I didn't record that would have been good to record, but if I did record it, I probably wouldn't have a license. But yeah, that bike, I've got to give it to Kawasaki. That bike did not falter once, did not have a single mechanical issue. The only issue I ever had was a fork seal leak. That was it. When did that happen? I had a fork seal leak at 40,000 kilometres, which I was told by the mechanics you should be doing them every 20,000. Well, that's fine, but I tend to just wait until things start showing signs of wear before I start replacing things. And that may not be a great way to go, but that's my way to go. Shifting forward to 2021, get this bike within the year. It blew a motor within under 4,000 kilometres. So mechanical issues all over the place with this thing. Since it's been rebuilt, it's been perfectly fine. Touch wood, or helmet, whatever. That I don't have any future issues. It's been going really well since the tune. I haven't had any issues, so it's been beautiful. Very nice bike. I do enjoy it. It does still leave a bad taste in my mouth. Not so much Ducati, but definitely Fraser's motorcycles. I don't care if they want to try and fucking kick up a stick for me naming and shaming them, but that company should not be dealing with a prestige motorcycle company when they can't even treat their customers correctly. And I'm pretty sure they lost the rights to Ducati anyway, or they sold the rights to Ducati. I don't know. Don't know what the go is. I just know that they've moved, and I know that there seems to be another business that has taken over Ducati that's in Parramatta. I don't know if it's them. If it is, well, I think Ducati needs to think about finding someone else to represent them. Anyway, I'm not going to badmouth people all this entire video. That's not the whole purpose. I just wanted to give people an update that we are on the last leg. We're seeing the light of getting this bike cracked and tuned, which will be a benefit. And there's probably other companies out there that already have this ability, but they're more or less the bigger mechanical companies. I'm primarily doing this to help out the smaller workshops, because some of the smaller workshops have the best mechanics, and they get shit on by all the big mechanics who don't even do the work properly in the first place, because they usually hire they have a couple of skilled workers, but then they hire a whole bunch of apprentices that have no old school knowledge, and all the new school knowledge is basically just shove a computer into it and then get some readings and then change a whole bunch of shit instead of actually diagnosing the mechanical issue in the first place. And their answer to everything these days is, well, that one little sensor's playing up, so we're going to replace the whole part because it comes as a single piece. Instead of going, okay, that's playing up, but why is that playing up? And then following root cause. Okay, it's playing up because the cable's a little bit loose. Why is it loose? Because the plug itself has a bit of wear and tear and needs to be replaced. So, you know, there's mechanics out there that do this, and they're very good at finding the root cause to a problem, rather than just changing out an entire assembly. And these people, like, should be praised for what they do, because they save their customers thousands upon thousands of dollars. They don't have to, because it's at their detriment that they do that. It's at their detriment because they're not earning that much money compared to the big workshops. And they're also not able to charge $150 an hour like the bigger workshops. They're charging a smaller rate, as well as actually getting to root cause and fixing the fucking problems. These bigger workshops, they'll fix the problem temporarily, and then you'll have to go back in 6 months' time with the exact same problem. This is why I'm going to so much effort to help a mechanic that is a standalone mechanic. He works for himself with his wife, and he's also very good at passing on knowledge to other small workshops. He doesn't hold the knowledge to himself. He doesn't, harbour this information for himself. He shares it amongst his community. Wow, what the hell's going on here? Which is what people should do. You got a whole new lineup of new motorbikes coming out with new technology. You're a mechanic, you should be sharing knowledge. Because ultimately, especially when it comes to two wheels, fucking hand's gone numb. If something goes wrong with these bikes, they have its potential to kill quite easily. So if you want your customers to keep coming back, keep them alive. That'll be the first thing. Now, I really hope my camera's recording properly, because I have not done this in so long. I could almost forgot. Get on your side of the road, dickhead. I almost forgot how to put my camera assembly together, but we got there in the end. I'm using the 4K camera, but I'm only going to be recording at 1080 because it's just way too much data. I hate the transfer times between 1080 and 4K. It's just freaking annoying. It takes too long. It takes too long to record. It takes too long to upload to YouTube. I don't see the point. It doesn't really, like, Australian internet these days is still super shit that you upload at 4K. It's not necessarily that the people that are going to be watching my videos are going to be able to watch it without any buffering happening along the way. So why bother? It's more effort and more wait time for me to be able to put this video together and upload it, just for an end product that doesn't really cut the mustard. Anyway, it was supposed to be rain today, but it looks like it's moved well off into the distance now. I was getting a bit worried that I was going to have to contend with that on the way, but it seems to have shuffled along. But anyway, see how we go. So the weather's been a bit crazy as of late too, because we've had a cyclone come down from Queensland. I think it's still on the way down from Queensland, making its way along the coastline. So chances are we might see the tail end of that. I believe it's sort of touching, or you can see it on the shore of Newcastle, maybe. Or at least that's the photo that I saw. It looked like a bit of a cyclone, but anyway. So it's smashing a whole heap of places up in Queensland at the moment. And our weather here has been pretty wet, windy. There's a lot of crazy things going on at the moment. There's a lot of things I could talk about, but there's it's a lot of touchy subjects, so we could always talk about the whole politics of today's societies, countries. It's a bit freaking insane at the moment. How entertaining it's been watching Trump basically tear shreds off of people online. The sun keeps hitting my dash and blinding me. Stupid shits. Yeah, it's been, I think the best thing, okay, I will talk about one thing, and it's going to be controversial for some people, but I'm pretty sure none of those people are actually connected up to my YouTube, don't watch this channel, so kind of don't really give a fuck if these people are offended, because it really gives me the shits that they tend to force their ideologies onto others, but we're not allowed to say jack shit in return. This whole women in sports thing, the best thing that I've seen Trump do so far has been when he he signed the bill to basically prevent men in women's sports. I never once, like when I started seeing men dressed as women fucking playing in women's sports, that was an absolute disgrace. An absolute disgrace that everyone played along with. And like, especially in the last Olympics boxing, when that chick got hit twice and she had to give up because she was like, I have not been hit harder in my entire life, in my entire career in boxing. And understandably so. You've got a guy that has probably double the bone density and muscle mass, dressed as a freaking woman, probably, I'm pretty sure, still had his dick, punching a fucking woman in the face. What kind of man is that? Well, he was claiming he wasn't a man, but why are we living in this fucking shithole world of delusion and being okay with it? And we're silencing the people that are actually speaking rational, like proper rational thoughts as to why this needs to stop, but just no one seems to give a fuck. I think the whole world needs a bloody mental reset as to what's normal and what's basically retarded, because it's like complete and utter delusion. It's ludicrous that we would allow men to compete in women's sports. Different story if you had a mixed sport like mixed hockey. I used to play mixed grass hockey, and it was, you would have, I think, five men and 4 women on the field. Was I think how it worked, something along those lines anyway. And then you obviously had to have your reserves to each, so a couple of women reserve and a couple of men reserve. And you know what? That's a sport that is easy for men and women to play together. Why? Because fucking you're not bowling each other over. You're not trying to physically tackle people. You're not trying to destroy someone. You're not, like, it's not rugby league where you've got to freaking wrestle someone to the ground and then hopefully they drop the ball and all this shit. Like, there was a time in grass hockey when I played against Lithgow, who at the time was the state champions, and I went to essentially block this girl who was half my size. I went to block this girl from basically hitting the ball down the field to her teammates. She belted it, didn't give a rat's ass that I was standing in front of her. She belted it, and I copped that hockey ball straight to the fucking knee. And if anyone knows what a hockey ball is like when it comes at you at 100 kilometers an hour, and when it hits you, it's extremely, extremely painful. And when you take it into the bone of your knee, suffice to say, I was not doing so good. So that's a sport that I'm happy to play men and women together, because there's no physical contact or prowess that one sex has an advantage over the other. It's a lot to do with skill, and the women can be just as skilled as the men in that regard. It's a bit moist here, so I'm not going to hit these corners as hard as I normally would like to. yeah, she looks definitely greasy. I'm going to take it easy today if these corners are like that. It's a bit of a shame, but, you know, I'd rather stay upright on two wheels. I reckon if I punched it right now, traction control would be kicking in. Because this is one greasy looking road. Anyway, yeah, so back to my story. So that game, I played for a little bit and then I had to call in a timeout so I could get off the field and get someone else in to replace me because I couldn't walk. I had to get ice pack. Put an ice pack on. I thought that I might have been okay after I had the ice pack on for the end of that game. I said, yeah, I'll have another go. I was literally on the field for probably 2 minutes and I said, nah, I am done for the day. And I still had 2 more games to play that day. See, women can cause just as much damage as the men can in that particular game. But when you've got boxing where you're literally putting the physicality of a man against the physicality of a woman, the man 9 times out of 10 will obliterate the woman if the woman's just got like averagely skilled, if they're average fighters. You know, maybe, just maybe you might have a fighter that's like a female fighter that's like the female version of Mayweather and can duck and weave out of everything and barely ever get touched. Okay, that's fine, but in reality, that type of ability doesn't exist very often. So we shouldn't have men in those types of sports, period. Especially when the segregation in the Olympics is men and women. It's like that bloody news report that I saw where that man claimed that he was a woman. And he was a man with all of his genitalia, and he went to a woman's prison because this is the guy that obviously did some fucked up shit or something. I don't know. I think he raped someone or some shit. Anyway, went to prison, claimed that he was a woman, and then however many years later, how much time later, I don't know how much time, 2 inmates were pregnant. Whether that was from consensual sex or from raping, don't know. We shouldn't have fucking been there. You just sent the guy to a fucking holiday home where there was literally no contest with other men to get the women. He was on cloud fucking 9. Mate, how I have no words for the level of absolute stupidity that our legal system has gotten to allow such just insanity within our society. It's completely fucking insane. And then people are wanting to be cats and teapots and fucking inanimate objects and babies and all the rest of it. It's like, mate, why do we entertain this shit? Why? How is this even remotely being entertained as something that we need to protect legally to stop so-called hate speech? And I may be talking a little bit funny because I have an ulcer on the inside of my mouth and my freaking helmet is pressing my face up in such a fashion that it constantly rubs on my tooth. So I think I've got, to me, it sounds like I've got like a little bit of a slur or something. It's a pain in the ass. Oh, very sore today. But update on the personal life, I now have a second child on the way finally. Finally put that cake batter in the oven. Got one to stick. Yeah. Booyah. Now I have a 3-year-old little girl who's growing up fast. Really, really smart. And then, yeah, by the time new baby comes out, my daughter will be 3.5 years old. Yeah, interesting times, right? Excelling at my job, getting my family on the way. I'm juggling a lot of things at the moment. Juggling a lot. So is my wife. My wife's been a trooper, putting up with my shit. She has to put up with a lot of shit coming from me, but you know, I try not to throw too much shit her way, but sometimes I just can't help it. It's just life, I suppose. People get stressed out. They start, instead of focusing on the problem, they take it out on one another. But I think we're strong enough to get through it all. It's a bit of a shame it's not drier on the road. I would have loved to have hit that corner at speed. Good old Ram. Started to lose my taste in the Rams and veering more towards the Silverados now. That's one of my little personal goals. So now that I'm earning more money and whatnot, obviously I live in a unit currently, so I need to buy a house. Obviously, because it's expanding the family, you can't have too many kids living in a unit. It becomes very difficult, very crazy. Although my sister-in-law, I think, has a unit that's like, it's not smaller than our unit, I don't think, like as in square meterage, but it's narrower. So it's a very narrow, long sort of unit. And she's got, well, 5 kids, I think, 5 kids in that unit. Mate, if that was me, I don't know how she does it, to be honest. Like, she works full time from, like, as a contractor. And she looks after 5 kids. I don't know if I could handle that much freaking noise while trying to do my job, or especially my job. My job takes a lot of energy out of my brain to be able to stay competitive in the market. So she's definitely a battler, that's for sure. Me and my wife, I think, are a little bit more on the easy to emotionally stress side of things. So we suffer a little bit more with less. That's not to say that we can't do as good a job. That's just to say that we're probably going to turn into fucking psycho killer or something along those lines if we have to deal with it for too long. I hadn't even checked the tyre pressures. It feels alright though. It's been sitting in the garage a while, so it's probably, tyre pressures are probably a little bit low. But in this sort of weather, it's probably not a bad thing. A bit more contact patch and warms the tyre up a little bit better, a little bit quicker. Given that the road's wet, the wetness of the road will probably be cooling the tyre down when you don't want the tyre to be cool. And I come across these videos, I'm having a fair few different topics in this video, but I come across these videos of this guy trying to teach people using essentially a plastic fucking motorbike toy, how they should corner. And I I copped a lot of flack because I said my piece in saying I believe that what you're telling people is incorrect. There was like heaps of people that were like, oh, that's the best information ever and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, hold on a second. So this person was teaching people to compress the front end coming into the corner until you can see the exit and then get on the gas. Well, the way I've been taught is you don't do that, because you compress the front end all the way throughout the entire corner. You're putting so much friction on that front tyre, and I know firsthand what happens when you do that in your mid corner is that you wash out because you've reached the friction limit of your tyre, washes out your low side. So when I said my piece, like, I did it in a nice manner. I was just like, look, I believe what you're saying is wrong, like the way I was taught. I said I have a difference of opinion. I didn't say what you're saying is wrong. I have a difference of opinion because of this, that and the other. You should be getting on the gas earlier because it pulls the rear suspension down, which pulls your rear shock absorber into the optimal range of motion to allow it to compress and rebound, in the middle section of the shock rather than being completely max depth. And people from the comments didn't seem to understand why people taught getting on the gas early. Well, I said, well, that's why you get on the gas early, because you're trying to make sure that you're planting the tyre onto the ground, because the chain forces the tyre down, forces the rear wheel down, and then allows that shock absorber in the rear to operate in its optimal range. And then what I noticed with this bike in particular, if I don't get on the gas early and I'm hitting the corner hard and I don't get on the gas, I'll bottom out. Like, I'll scrape the shit out of my foot peg and my boot. But if I get on the gas early and it's holding the rear tyre down, it's lifting the bike up. So, and 9 times out of 10 when I do that, I don't ever scrape the peg. Why? Because I have more clearance when I do that. And when obviously you have more clearance, you've got more suspension travel. So when you're hitting these, like, this road's very imperfect. There's a lot of potholes and a lot of grooves and patchwork that really makes this ride bumpy. If you're mid corner and you've maxed out your suspension and then you hit one of these bumps, your tyres are not going to stick to the road and allow you to keep cornering properly. You'll notice that your tyres will start to square off, and that's because they're skimming, they're not gripping. And I tried to explain this and they were just like, oh yeah, you should just watch my videos. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going to listen to someone trying to promote their shit that is giving people false information on how to ride motorcycles, and people are taking it as gospel, so they're going to start doing it. And I believe that a lot of these riders were cruiser riders. But the moment I was just like, yeah, I do a lot of high-speed riding, and I have quite a bit of experience on road, like not on a racetrack, but on road, doing, yeah, I'm not going to say what speeds because I shouldn't be doing them, but, excessive. So I know how to corner a bike and I know how to do it safely at high speed. Like, I'm talking about going through corners in between 100 to 200 kilometers an hour. And these people are like, oh, hey, we listen to this bloody street Rossi. And I was like, mate, I'm not trying to boast myself up as a street Rossi, but I'm telling you how the mechanics of suspension works and how you can corner safely. Like, what this guy is teaching you is to leave yourself with no more travel in your front suspension. So in the event that, in your normal riding, that you end up seeing something that is an emergency, and you need to apply more brakes in order to prevent yourself from, hitting an obstacle or something, or a kid runs out the fucking road, you've got no more suspension travel, which means the front wheel is going to hit a much higher friction limit, and then you're going to hit that limit of the friction that tyre can handle. You're going to lock up, the front wheel's going to twist on you, you're going to low slide, you're going to low slide, and then you're probably going to end up taking out, if it was a kid crossing the road, you're going to end up taking that kid out with the bike sliding across the fucking pavement. And they just can't get it into their head. I think this type of misinformation needs to be stamped out permanently, because it was just, it's going to cause an accident. And I said that to them. I told them what would happen to the suspension, especially if they come under emergency braking, and they didn't want a bar of it. I'm like, no worries, I'll do my thing and I'll stay upright. You do your thing, running a much higher risk of you having an accident, because that's basically what's going to happen. You're going to run out of suspension travel, your tyre's going to run out of grip, and that'll be that. See you later. So, and I even recommended, not my word, I even recommended that they watch a training video, Twist the Wrist 2, that goes over all the mechanics, all the physics of how to ride a bike safely. And it's not going on about how to ride a bike safely on a race course, like it does that as well, but it's talking about the road, and it's talking about all types of bikes, not just super sports. So, you've got a professional organisation that has put out a professional training video on how to ride the bike, going through the mechanics on how to set your bike up for your weight, for what you're carrying, how to ride the bike properly, how to read corners, so on and so forth. But they didn't want a bar of it. And that you got this guy that thinks he knows a thing or two, using a plastic fucking plastic little motorbike that he's twiddling with his fingers to teach people how to ride bikes, and they're taking it as gospel. Righto. I mean, if this guy really knew a thing or two about riding, he'd probably have a bit more of a production budget, one would think, but clearly no one's willing to sponsor or support his methods. And it didn't look like he was a first timer or a startup. Like, it looked like his videos have been out there for a long time. Anyway, that's that. If you come across those videos, I suggest you do yourself a favour and watch Twist of the Wrist 2, and that's something I believe you can find on YouTube. You don't need to rent it or download it. You can find it on YouTube, the full version, and that will teach you a lot about riding. And I believe I've recommended that video a couple of times on my channel, to be honest. I haven't watched it for a long time, but I've also been riding a long time, but it wouldn't hurt for me to do some revision, because I don't ride the way that I used to, because there's just no way of doing it here. If I was still living in the country, I would be. But now, I still do ride quickly occasionally, but most of it's just sort of like cruises like this, which is unfortunate because I do like riding high speed, but going to be coming up to Ocean Road, I believe it's called, Great Ocean Road, soon. Hopefully my camera is still operational. Love this road because it's so smooth and it's just such a beautiful view. Do the puppy. it doesn't look like there's any cyclone on our waters. Hopefully it stays that way. Never been involved in a cyclone before. Been involved in a lot of fires because I used to be a firefighter. Never cyclones. Fires and car accidents is basically what I've had to deal with in my time. 12 years in the fireys. Mainly car accidents, to be honest. I'm going to pull over and see if my camera is still doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then go back. Whew. Should have a nice clear. Now down here, cruise control set. Off I go. Seacliff Bridge, eh? Just look at it. Stunning. Usually I stop where that beach is over there that you can see. There's a lookout on top. That's where all the paragliders take off from. It's a really nice area to pull up. Very busy though. I don't like going there on the weekend because it's just so busy. So many bikes and cars go up there, sit around, whatever. It's good to go through there through the week. There's barely anyone there, but the problem is then I'm not sure when the coffee shop opens, but every time I go there during the week it's always closed. Probably because I don't make much business during the week, so there's no point. I just open up 2 days of the week and make shitloads. And another BYD. Fuck, these BYDs are everywhere. That's something else to talk about, right? So Australia has a lot of long distance travel between places. BYD is probably the only car that's been brought to Australia that might be semi-okay with having. And especially given like how much that car has built into it for the price that it goes for. It's a good contender against all the diesels and whatnot. But I'm still not convinced because like that it's going to be any good because again it's a vehicle that runs on software. Software always has glitches. They always want you to do updates. There was a review I watched recently, an Australian review that I watched recently where they're still averaging 9 litres per 100 because and it's rated online as 2 litres per 100 purely because the battery just runs down so much and the engine's constantly running to keep it charged. So don't think it's suitable for our conditions here. I don't think any battery operated vehicle is going to be suitable for Australian conditions. Hydrogen cars, when they finally hit our market, I think once a lot of fuel stations start offering hydrogen as a refueling source, that would be viable, and that would be more viable than anything else on the market at the moment. Yeah. BYD, huh? Everything's turning Chinese. Like, I just can't feel comfortable with buying a Chinese vehicle. Nothing against Chinese people, but their products are just subpar anybody else. We need to get a Prime Minister in this country that wants to actually build manufacturing in Australia and get back to manufacturing vehicles. Because the only manufacturing of vehicles that I know of in Australia is the Bushmaster. It's for the army. Heaps of armies buy that from us. We don't seem to build it for our own fucking army, but we're happy to build it for others. What do you do? We've just got politicians that do nothing but line their own pockets, don't give a fuck about the Australian people, serve their 2 terms and then get a permanent pension for the rest of their life. It's absolutely ridiculous. Got people in office that have never lived a day harshly in their life. They've probably walked into the office as a millionaire. You don't have anyone these days in Parliament that doesn't come from wealth. So how on earth could they possibly understand the needs of the Australian people? And then you had our dipshit Prime Minister dancing with all the gays at Mardi Gras, then saying he's basically pro-Palestine. It was just like, do you not understand what, the Islamic nations, Sharia law do to gays? He's just a special kind of fucking moron. Special kind of stupid, as I would normally say to people. Fire. Oh, mate, keep it on. That's the other thing that's gone wrong with this bike. The fuel sensors basically shit itself. So although it's reading properly now, saying I have a full tank of fuel because I filled up before coming out here, it occasionally just stops working. It tells me I'm empty, which is a common issue amongst these bikes. And everyone that says they fix it, get a new sensor in, they say, oh, it's a new revised model, and they just screw up the exact same way again. Yeah, Bald Hill. Good place for coffee. overrun. Do the overrun over this hill. Motorbike riding. No decibel killers. Vandemon exhaust. 1260 cc's of brute Ducati Italian force. Fucking hell, that got a bit squiff. Yeah, she's getting a greasy now, so I'm gonna back off. It's funny, those little squiggles and stuff. It feels so natural to control them on this bike. If that had happened to me on the ZX, I'd probably be a lot more freaked out. Like, it just takes you like a little bit of surprise on this bike, but then it doesn't feel like you've lost control. When stuff like that used to happen to me on the ZX, it just felt, because of the short wheelbase, it just feels like you're immediately going to be spat. It was the ZX. I love the ZX. I love the speed. I love everything about that bike. But you came back from a ride, like a high-speed ride, completely emotionally exhausted because you were constantly on the line of, you know, your skill set and life and death. You know, you knew you could ride, and one mistake could end up saying, "See you later." Made a few mistakes there. I freaking hugging the centre line a bit too much for my liking. I need to come into corners later than that, but you know, it is what it is. Always have this issue with getting close to the edge of the road. I don't like it, especially when there's like that where it's all gravel and crap. don't want to leave myself, you know, out in the lurch when I need to pull into the corner and then all of a sudden the rear wheel slides out because there's gravel on the side of the road. You can never trust the edges of these roads. It's not gravel, it's a branch. I always like to stick to the centre line, but then in doing so you're not taking the optimal line, and then you're also putting yourself in danger of oncoming traffic, especially, you know, drivers out in the road. They don't seem to like sticking to their lane a lot of the time.